efficiency. Efficiency is always going to be our biggest driver, I would say.
We're starting late.
Well, I
It's
mean, yeah, we are, but you'd think after 160 episodes, we would nail this
I
by
don't
now.
know.
Like it would be just like
That's
a scientific artifact of
no.
proof
I
of
mean,
fact.
look, I'm not even gonna play good improv. Look at how we're already starting this
We're
off.
starting it very bad, so badly I forgot to tweet about the show. So as we were talking about this, I gotta do the tweets because Twitter still
You know,
responds to Twitter.com because that's how it works. I saw
you
that.
know, my
You
my
did your
monthly
You did.
tweet.
I know.
There
I
you
know.
go.
I was going through that X or Twitter or whatever, and then I see a tweet from a Juan Carlos Bagnell. Like, who is
This is
this
something
guy?
you might be interested in. I was like, no, that's not.
Well, no, no.
That's not worth.
Twitter knows. Twitter knows. Like, whenever you post anything, be it a monthly check in or whatever, it pops that up all the way up to the top of my feed, and I'm like, I was appreciative of that.
Hey, that's
But then
pretty
you
cool.
pointed out a few things that I kind of started to overlook over time. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, the site still says twitter.com.
Yeah,
You could type twitter.com and it'll take you
it's
there.
the
But if
most
you type
passive
X,
aggressive like.
yeah.
Ooh, you're not going to Twitter. There's this big splash animation. You're on X now. And you're like, no, I'm not. I'm still on
Not, I
Twitter.com.
am still on cousin Twitter. But either way, happy Thursday, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well.
Happy Thursday.
First Thursday of this month that seems to be shaping up to bring us at least some interesting news when it comes to Android.
Yeah.
And devices that we like and devices that we would love to be able to see what the next iteration is going to do, and also conversations over some performance that could potentially maybe not so positive coming up on Q2 reporting in the recent
You know,
days.
it's not something I feel like we are going to make a regular part of our coverage. I
Hmm.
wrote up an editorial just talking about Apple's quarterly financials just because I feel like there's an interesting trend
Yeah.
kind of playing in the entire smartphone industry, and we can kind of break down some of that info too.
Well, even in
Uh,
other industries as well. There's some changes going on, like some major changes in business. But yeah.
and there definitely seems to be something in the air. So whatever we might think about, like one of the most profitable companies of all time in the modern era of consumer electronics, it definitely speaks to some changing or
Hmm.
some evolving business practices over time. But some interesting stuff to kind of dig into.
Sorry.
Trying to figure out, like, because we were talking about this a little offline.
Hmm.
You and me both have videos that we just have not been able to finish. I'm under embargo still on stuff that I would love to publish. Can't show it to people. And it just seems like we're kind of in a I feel like this is a part of the year where
Hmm.
normally we'd still be getting some other hardware announcements, but I feel like so many companies ratcheted up
Yeah.
their distribution at the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024 that now those types of launches are have all been done. Like we would still normally be fielding just a few more. Hey, we're getting to the summer. Hey, there's some like fun like lifestyle accessories
Well,
and
we would have
lifestyle
already
products
had
and
like an
stuff like that.
Xperia announcement / potentially early launch. Like we've had
Right?
launches with Xperia like early May, right? I mean, the last few years where
Yeah.
Xperia 1 comes out. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. This shift that started last October, which I don't I'm hearing different conversations, different rumors. Like initially, I honestly thought it was just Qualcomm that wanted to, between you and me, honestly, be very clear. I honestly thought Qualcomm wanted to one up MediaTek, right? Because MediaTek always used to come like a week or so, maybe 2 weeks before Qualcomm, and they would announce their next SoC, and then obviously Qualcomm comes out and they announce their SoC. But I felt like it was always a respected border between the two, and they never really played against each other because they feel like they fall into different spaces to a certain point. But as time goes on and as more conversations are going, and what we saw last year with Tech Summit from Qualcomm moving into, I think it was early or mid October, and like the Xiaomi
Yeah.
14 coming out so early, like the next gen 8 Gen 3 was like so early in the
Mm-hmm.
year, and that shifted everything.
Everything. Because
Everything
now
pulled.
think about like all of the exciting sort of mid-year phones
Hmm.
that would still be making these big headlines about, oh well, we've got the new Qualcomm chip. I there was like an article,
Hmm.
I can't remember who published it, but it was like, what a useless piece of news. Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 still tops Dimensity for this month's Antutu charts. Like, who's running Antutu benches on 8 Gen 3s right now? That doesn't make any sense.
Dude, Juan, we've talked about this on the show before. If you're not Antutuing all day long and geek benching, what are you doing on your phone, bro? Like, if you're not, how do you know your phone is still fast?
Yeah, it's sad.
You speed test the sucker out of that, and then you always Antutu it at the end.
And it's kind of the only thing to do on a phone. I mean, you can't like do actual work or play games or watch media.
Media. That's what I would say.
The only thing you can do is just keep running synthetic benchmarks to get a bigly number.
Well, I mean, so because we have so the landscape or the architecture that we have right now is, again, we've said this and we said it before. This is a very much an experimental year, or a year one in a new world order. Not sorry. I know I'm it's getting close to May 4th, so I have to start cracking some of those things. 'Cause we're not Justin Timberlake. I'm not doing that song, but I can tell you that May the 4th be with you to everybody ahead of, in
right. We're early.
We're early, a couple of days early. Well, like May 4th comes on a Saturday, May 5th comes on a Sunday this year. It's like, it's a weird even the holidays are landing wrong.
It sucks for Cinco de Mayo, but you make do.
I have a friend that works at their company is very big on May 4th. And needless to say, a lot of Halloween costumes are worn on that day, where the company entirely celebrates the Star Wars saga, or the Force or the Fourth. So totally geeking out on that part. But I mean, what I was trying to say is, we have the 8S Gen 3. We have, we're almost at the cusp of, I mean, October is what, 5 months away from now? Like, so we're close to the 8 Gen 4 at this point, if they stick to the same schedule. Xperia, we're going to talk about some of the rumors coming up. We have an announcement coming up from Sony in Japan. Again, an actual, not a massive launch in it, but an actual event happening in Japan for the Xperia, something we haven't had for years.
Yeah.
But a lot of rumors circling around, a lot of changes. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to be for us in the summer. I'm with you. During this time last year, we had a Moto Edge, an Edge 2023, 2023 that came
And it
out.
seems like Motorola was trying to make a lot of noise. Like Lenovo Moto was saying, hey, we really are building to try and become the third place phone distributor.
A lot of I know, and it's
and that public face would indicate, like, well, are you going to reshape your product line? Are you going to try and attack a high-end solution? Yes, we have gotten another Edge, but it seems like that has been kind of an underwhelming announcement, not really generating.
Because it's also more of it's a mid-ranger, not the flagship Edge that we were used to seeing. Like the Edge.
Well, I mean, there's always been a nice mid-range Edge, and then some kind of Edge Pro or Edge Ultra or something like that.
But see, that's the other caviat.
Edge Plus, that's the one.
Yeah, the Edge Plus is what we used to see, which is I think the Edge, what they call the 40 series in Europe. I know some of our friends in Europe are already getting to play around with the brand new versions of these devices. That, again, there's a shift. There's a shift in the air, and it's a weird.
So
it is sad.
I kind of feel like we're a little peek behind the curtain. Like, I haven't even written this up in like a production diary for the Patreon or anything like that. I got a message from the folks at Acer. So I'm going to spend a little time just trying to catch up, because they've refreshed all of their products. They're not radically different, but like laptops with the new core, the new Intel Core 7, instead of the i7, it's the Core 7. So spent a little time with the 155H. So hopefully that'll be coming down the pipe. I'm trying to chat with, I haven't covered anything from Dynabook since they were Toshiba. I mean, I was 4 websites ago was the last time I really like held a Toshiba satellite and used it for any length of time. So I've reached out to the folks at Dynabook. An old buddy of mine from ASUS is talking about their summer strategy, where Nook is actually kind of high on their list of, because ASUS bought up the actual Intel Nook
Okay.
manufacturing. So even though they also have their own line of mini PCs, they also now have the Nook. So that's another one follow up. And then obviously we're both going to be talking about some type of launch for X Elite
Yeah.
laptops as we come over
Well, X Elite
as we
and
go over the
apparently
summer.
X Plus, Plus and Elite, which was the surprise.
So
We were there and we asked, and they're like, "Well,
yeah.
we can't really."
Oh,
And
we're
there's always
publicly
the
committing to
yeah, yeah.
X Elite, but there's the who is it? How do we phrase it? The word elite implies that there could be some other type of Snapdragon X
No, and
non-elite.
exactly. No, no, and we went down that route. We were like flat out asking,
The
and
engineer was like, "Yes,
like,
you're asking me every question that I cannot answer."
yeah, and you're like, we could see the writing on the wall. I mean, not that it was written on the wall, but you know what I mean. Like, I get it. You're telling me that
Yep.
this is your best SKU. It's like saying the Agent 4 is going to be the only chip that they're going to release in 2024 to 25.
Right.
Like, we know
No.
there's going to be variants and so on. So the long story is the reality is we're still waiting to see hardware releasing with either the Plus or the X Elite configuration. I
Yeah.
saw somewhere somebody's article saying that they're saying that there's going to be some configurations running at 100 watts, not just maxing out at the
So
80, depending on the setup and what they're doing.
this is also one of the things. I don't want to. I every single podcast I've been doing, I've been getting sidetracked on X Elite, so I don't want us to kind of fall down that rabbit hole too. But until product is in OEM distribution channels, until a manufacturer with a label like HP or Dell
Or
or
Asus or a Lenovo
Lenovo or
or yeah,
someone is actually putting this product in people's hands, all of the conjecture is very different than how we normally talk about CPU wattage.
yeah.
Because that 80-watt system that Qualcomm put out as a test bed is not an 80-watt CPU.
No, no,
It's
no,
not
no.
an 80-watt SoC. So when
Exactly.
one article comes out and says, hey, there's like a whole thing here and there could be a high end, which is like 100 watts, do they mean a 100-watt system? That doesn't
I
seem unreasonable. A high end laptop can easily break 100 watts. There are
oh
Intel
no,
laptops
absolutely.
that can still drain the battery when they're plugged in with a 100-watt charger. Like that's not incredible. So if there is some kind of high end X Elite, the best binned chip that
Mhm.
can just the SoC itself can hit 100 watts, that's an interesting thing to talk about. But until there's an actual product that is built around that type of configuration, none of this means anything. And that's where I'm still getting really anxious, is seeing, will Microsoft really take this seriously? I think a lot of folks are wanting to see a Surface Pro that competes benchmark for benchmark against
Mhm.
an Intel part but uses less power. But if they opt for a lower power X Pro or X Plus or whatever it is, and then they still charge as much as what sort of a Core Ultra 5 or Core Ultra 7 would cost,
Mhm.
it's not a winning strategy. I don't think you're really winning the hearts and minds or the pocketbooks when, well, this one you get better battery life, but it doesn't run as well,
Yeah,
but it costs the same.
yeah, yeah.
Like we're not
You
meeting
have to be
people
able
where
to
they
show
live.
the savings, the bang for the the dollar per not the dollar per kilogram, dollar per watt performance, potential performance gain, and how is it going to compete? Not just to the
Yeah.
Intel side of the house, but obviously even to the Apple Silicon side of the house that's been dominating this for the last three generations. I mean, we're up to
Hmm.
M3 already, and they're saying their X Elite should be able to, basically get the M2 Max out of the water, at least from the original numbers that we saw late last year during Qualcomm Tech Summit before the M3 came out. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is the landscape is changing, the timelines are
Hmm.
changing. I'm hoping as we get closer to I/O, and we can talk a little bit more too about the Pixel 8a and some of the things we're anticipating and hopefully going to see at I/O, as typically the A
Yeah.
series is launched. Um, things like that. I'm hoping things will start getting picked up for us. A few things come up. Sony's looking into their things. Hopefully, Motorola will at some point. I hope they do bring in their high-end Plus series from their Edge series, because I always found that those. I mean, I feel like they perform great because they offer you so much for so little, And a lot of
Yeah.
people appreciated the value that they offered, like the 512 gigs of internal storage on a device that didn't cost 1,000, $1,200, 1,000 to 1,200. Like, it's crazy. So, but
That's a
it is,
biggie for sure.
but reading the tea leaves on that a little bit, that could be an instant. I mean, maybe we could just dive into Xperia conversation first. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah,
Let's
I
talk.
mean, we should shift over because I feel like this is another one where often we might be under some kind of embargo.
Mhm.
But I have had no communications with Sony
Yeah.
regarding their future plans. And what I can share is that usually by this time of the year, there has been some kind of broader conversation with content creators, pre-briefs,
Mhm.
some type of heads up.
Yeah.
And
Especially with
that
the event being publicly announced, and it's like not even 2 weeks from now.
usually they're
Oh,
ahead
is it?
of that.
It's next week. No, is it next week? Is it
It's the
next Friday?
second today, so it's
Well, I know, but like I
so
thought it was on the.
tomorrow's the 3rd.
Hold
So
on. let
next
me-
Friday's the 10th. Isn't it the 17th?
It's on a Friday. I remember that Xperia event, Japan. Sorry,
I
I
thought
want to.
I thought it was the 17th. I thought it was not
It
this.
is. It is on May 17th.
Not-
You are correct, my friend. I
So
am
not the
bad
next
at
Friday,
dates.
but the Friday following.
So we are 2 weeks from. Okay, so we're still
Yeah.
full. Okay, so
But
TK's on.
that's
Okay, great.
usually not how this kind of chat goes down.
Yeah.
And
No.
and the I mean, there are obviously other things at play. Maybe Sony has decided they don't want to work with medium-sized YouTube channels. Totally possible.
There's been absolutely, yeah. Things
Could
can change
also
forever.
be that following the release of the Xperia 5 Mark V, which did not come to the United States,
No.
Sony
no.
could be looking at a radically different distribution strategy for North America. And if the Xperia 1 Mark VI is delayed or just never comes to the United States, that's also possible. It's Sony, they're persnickety. There's no way to pin them down until we get confirmation. And with
Yeah.
the reveal of the Xperia 5, we were really late into the product year before we got final definitive confirmation from Sony it is not coming to the United States. I had both my wife and my uncle really looking at the Xperia 5 for a new phone purchase last year, and Sony totally left us in the lurch until the last possible second to confirm that they weren't going to ship it.
I know, and look, I'd have to say, I'd have to believe that if they're releasing it, okay, we'll look at it from this standpoint, okay? If they're releasing an Xperia 1, obviously 5 and the 10 series, and basically the trifecta they've released within the last few years. We have a 1, a 5, and a 10, right? So the 10's always been a European one, so I've never really thought that the 10 would ever, I always thought like it would be nice to bring the 10 till I tried the 10, and then I realized the 10 is very much a very name only relative of, and maybe slightly in the shape of the device relative to the 1. It's very different. It is not exactly, it is not intended to be in the same ballpark. Makes perfect sense. Losing the 5 last year really gutted me because I like the 5. I like the 1 for the large 4K display, but I like the 5 for the nimbleness.
The 5 was a better mainstream.
Absolutely. And I felt like even though it's
premium
the smaller
conversation,
of the two, it still has its own merit and its own fan base. So we lost the 5 last year. I will say that if they're releasing the 1, that I believe that at least the 1 should come. Maybe, as you said, it may not show up at the beginning. We may have a delayed launch, which is always typical to us. We always are the last to get it. Even if we are said that we get it, we would be on the last, like literally the last day before the potential window was. That's when we get it.
So, but the weirdness of that is Sony hasn't in the past staged media briefings.
Yes.
Different per region. And if that changes, that to me is a surprising change because we'd still be talking about the phone. We'd still be pointing people to spec sheets and speculating what it might be like. That's what we've always done. When the phone is only available in Japan and China, we're still talking about it.
Oh, absolutely.
And that to me is the critical difference over. I mean, I want to say it was the Xperia 5 Mark III, where it came so late, it actually arrived almost the year following.
I know. Like January the following year. I remember.
We got the brief on the Xperia 5 Mark III the same time as we got the brief on the Xperia 1 Mark III. So
That was a
we
weird
knew
year.
about
Yeah, it
that
was a weird. I
phone,
know.
and we knew everything about that phone like 8 months before it really shipped. And it wasn't that long, but it was still like an incredible amount of time before it really shipped here in the United States. And then we still got the Xperia 5 Mark IV following in the same year.
Yep.
So this, again, not getting the 5, not seeing any chatter, and I don't want to out any of our friends who might be holding the phone right now. Like, I'm sure we know
I don't doubt. I'll
creators
say
that are
this.
using it.
I don't doubt that there is going to be a number of videos dropping as the announcements being made. There's no question. I would probably I probably venture to say that it's more so focused in Japan, if anything else, like maybe China and Japan, their primary markets, the two markets that they always sell the devices first. So yeah, totally not even sweating that part. I'm bummed that it's not a different conversation. But at the end of the day, I hope, again, regardless of timing, I hope that at some point or another we do get the one Mark VI.
Yeah.
If the 5 Mark VI does make it back and it becomes a thing, maybe if Sony wants to bring it back. But I feel like if nothing else, the vanguard that made the entire series popular for me is it's that large 4K display, the better gaming speakers, all the improvements,
But
all the bells
this
and
is
whistles that they would
also
improve. Yeah.
the rumors that we're pointing to is an Xperia experience
Mhm.
that seems like Sony's first steps in trying to water down their flagship phone. So going
I
to
feel
the
like they did that a
wider.
little bit with their Pro side. Yeah, like we haven't seen a
Well,
single
no, but I mean,
Pro
like going to
I
the
or
wider aspect ratio,
Mhm.
the rumors are pointing towards a phone now that doesn't have the 4K display, instead opting for a more traditional 1440p display.
Oh
Is that
Lord.
radically different? No. I mean, 20 by
No.
9 versus 21 by 9, that is not so different you can't hold the phone, but it takes away from Sony something that was kind of unique. The
It
other
was the
rumor
only,
being
yeah, them
they're
and Sharp, I think, were the only
completely
two. Yeah.
streamlining all of their camera apps. So instead of having Cinema Pro and Video Pro and Photography Pro, it's going to be one much more traditional camera app, kind of like a Samsung style camera app, where you just have a menu item for
Like different modes within
manual
the same
modes and
camera.
stuff like
Yeah. No,
that.
no. And I really do
And
hope
I'm
they get rid of the whole basic mode thing. That just made no sense.
so that's kind of it, right? Like
Yeah.
Sony meeting the rest of the market on those types of considerations, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it
Well,
does. But it does. For me, it kind of waters down what made the Xperia such a unique proposition. When I
yeah,
wanted to shoot
for five
video,
generations. Yeah.
when I wanted to shoot video, I thought in video pro mode. When I wanted to shoot photography, I thought in photo pro mode. And to me, that was more camera like than a scrolling menu list where you go to adjust one setting and it can dump you out of video mode if your finger slips,
Yep.
right? That
No, no,
never
I'm with you.
happened on an Xperia because you
You wouldn't
don't
be in the
leave
same.
video
Yeah.
pro mode, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So things like that, I understand trying to make the Xperia more accessible, but who are you reaching with that? The Xperia is not an accessible phone, and I think it very likely the Xperia One is still going to be a $1,300 to $1,400
I
device.
wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. No, no. I don't, even with the like if they do drop the resolution down to the 1440p as opposed to the
Oh,
4K.
they're not going to drop the price.
No, well, no, it's not just the pricing. I think it's more
it's
about
it's
it's
Sony.
yeah, it's a niche based product. It's not a stumbling into go into your store and try to pick it up. And they've done a
Right.
very good job of making it more niche every year. My only thing about it is it would be like it's such a dramatic shift. Again, for me, like from not seeing any upgrade or any conversation over the Pro line for years, and still Pro I for me still holds a very special place for me for the with the way
Yeah.
they did it. This year is just it's a lot. I'll say this: it's a lot of concerns, reservations. The event is within a couple of weeks. Hopefully, we'll. I mean, I'm not hopefully. I'm pretty sure all of our questions will be put to rest. Hopefully, they're good answers. That's what I'm hoping for. Like you said, there was some rumors going on about like potentially like the five, not the five, the 10, and the sorry,
So hold on, I can pull. This was shared on the Discord by owner of Sexel 7 Pro. Can imagine how this individual feels about their Pixel. He's a good guy. He's got a little turtle icon for his profile picture.
Profile. Yeah.
So Xperia 10 Mark 6 is going to get a Snapdragon 6 Gen 1. So whatever is going to follow up
So the 6
because I
Gen 1.
believe the
Okay,
last
yeah, that
one.
makes
No,
sense.
I believe the last Xperia 10 had a Snapdragon 695. Was
It
that
was
what it
still a
had?
690. Yeah. I mean, the 6
That's
Gen
not
1 is just,
great
it's the
for such
continuation
an
of the 6
expensive
series.
phone.
Well, so the Xperia 10 is not rumored. It typically is around $300 to $400, maybe $500 max.
I thought it was like MSRP at like $399 or something. Like
Yeah.
that,
Because when I
which
bought mine, gently used, it was like a 300. So it's not the 5 always ranked around the 799, 800, something like that. The 10 is usually around the 4, and the 1 is usually 1,000 plus. Not 1,000 plus, about plus 1,000, plus 1,000.
yeah, it's tough because like it's almost impossible to shop an Xperia 10 because you just get results for. So on eBay, this is not good. Like oranges to oranges regional shopping comparisons.
On eBay,
Brand new inbox, not used or refurbed or anything like that. Xperia 10 Mark 5,
Okay.
128 gig version, $450. That's a lot.
That is a
for
lot.
an Xperia 5.
Because it's an
10.
import. I guess maybe they're charging a premium for an import.
But
Maybe.
when we get imports like on Xiaomi and we're getting them shipped directly from China and trying to figure out how to make that happen, I don't think it's that much of a premium over buying the phone locally. Obviously, there is like that importer fee because they're packaging the phone to send it to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, for what you get on an Xperia 10, that's really pricey. I mean, when you think about
so it's
what, like, a
329
Pixel,
pounds brand new in the UK Amazon store.
329.
329 for the 128 to 6.1 inch, and it's on sale from 399 pounds. So that's roughly about $400. If we had to kind of say,
So,
but they have a few at 300 pounds, gently used. Sorry, let me.
Pounds to dollars. That's $500.
What? 329.
399 British pounds sterling is $500.
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I know. I'm saying it's
so, and it's on sale because we know the next generation is going to be coming out soon. You've got to clear stock.
Yeah. So they're making RRP.
So I'm saying, like, if the expected MSRP of an Xperia 10 is 399 pounds sterling,
yeah,
that's too much.
But it comes in purple. And it comes in sage green, and I guess this is the white. It kind of looks like
too much. You get a Pixel A series. Just do that.
Wait a couple of weeks. Okay, so you know what? Yeah, we should hear about the Pixel 8a officially before the Xperia announcement.
Yeah, I mean, we saw all the leaks. We know like kind of what the design looks like, the matte finish, stuff like that. It's been all over our timelines and stuff.
Surprise. No, I was kidding. Yeah, I know. It's in keeping up with the tradition of Pixel leakage.
I loves me some Sony.
Yes.
I can't, in good conscience. You have to be really into the Xperia 10 experience to say $399. That makes sense. Because I feel
like there's
a
little bit of a Sony tax in there, but again,
bit, yeah.
well, again, we've never had that device in the US. It's not optimized to run very well in the US. The 10 that I bought, I think, is the Xperia 10 Mark 4, not even the Mark 5. I skipped the 5, but the design looks very much similar. It was not very well optimized for US 5G. So at the end of the day, it's really. The 10 and the 5 are great devices. The 5 has changed in 2023. Now, obviously, 24. Hopefully, if there is going to be a 5, we'll have to see how that goes. But I still hope that their Vanguard, the flagship of all of their features, the new bells and whistles that they put out every year, does show up. If it shows up late or does, as it typically will, let's hope that actually becomes a thing. But I'm worried with the way Moto's doing their thing, the way Sony's been doing it since last year with the 5 and the changes in the rumors that we're seeing right now. we'll have to basically keep our fingers crossed, and we're literally days, not months anymore. We're weeks away from that announcement. So I'm
Hold
excited
on.
to see what they're going to talk. But yeah,
I just want to see. So oneplus.com/UK phones OnePlus 12R.
okay.
I'm trying to find. Okay, so this is a little bit better. The OnePlus 12R right now it's on offer for 599 British pounds. But here in the United
12R is
States,
$599.
yeah, here in the United States, that's a $500 phone, which again, if we do the conversion from pound sterling on the Xperia to US dollars, it's about $500.
About
But
the
that's
same thing.
not comparable. That's not the 12R is 399. It's
Well,
it's a lot more expensive. So parts of that I guess can make sense depending on what the regional competition is, but there's just so much going on in the EU right now where you want to pick yourself up like a Xiaomi
mhm.
or a last year Xiaomi or a Poco or an Oppo or any of these other like premium labels that also have incredible like think about how good the experience was on a Vivo V.
Yeah.
Like that is a phone that's kind of built to do battle around $450. I would definitely take that triple camera, the new revised Pro model. I would take that triple camera over Sony's sort of mid-ranger
Mhm.
solution. So I don't know. It's pretty tough looking at what they're doing. It just makes me really anxious about Sony's strategy here, and I wonder how much how much patience they still have for a phone division anymore. It guts me because this is like another brand that I adored, like
Mhm.
LG,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't feel the same commitment that Sony has shown in the past to we're going to stick to our guns. This is what we think a premier flagship phone experience should be. They sell like hotcakes in Japan and China. I feel like even they're starting to kind of constrict around an established or sort of a commodity
Yeah.
idea of what the smartphone should be.
I mean, every market is dealing with different, every parts in tech and in different sectors, they're all dealing with them slightly differently. And we're going to talk a little bit about Apple and some of the stuff going on there. But the I guess what I will say is, again, it's a tough market for for enthusiasts of the headphone jack, enthusiasts of the SD card,
Yeah.
and getting that I would say the Maverick tool or the all-in-one tool type of a solution that Sony has been basically just literally single-handedly carrying for many years now, where everybody else basically left that market and they basically are focusing on other things. We'll have to
Yeah.
see how they approach it. We'll have to see how the apps are. Will they consolidate them as many have asked in the past, or are they going to basically stick to their guns? Which in a certain way, it was very well compartmentalized. I mean, you know exactly which app does what. Cinema Pro and Video Pro
Hmm.
were different apps. You weren't using them
Yeah.
for the same setup. And they gave us finally 4K video on the front-facing camera. They did improve things over the time. So as I imagined they would do this year. So the fact that we know that there's Xperia news coming up, it at least it excites me that there's something that we could talk about it. I hope the 1 and the 10 and the 5 do have an update for this year, and I can't wait to see what they do with the improvements. If it is, I'm hoping it's earth shattering, but more than likely it's going to be incremental. But as you said before,
Yeah.
maybe just optimizing the existing setup that they have, and maybe just giving us a few extra little features that make the use of the Gen 3 more
So
functional and practical.
the other again from the post on my private Discord
Mhm.
from owner of Sexel 7 Pro, it sounds to me like the main difference is going to be a slightly larger. So first of all, the display difference.
Mhm.
We're going to lose resolution, go to a more traditional skinny aspect ratio, like a 19 by 9 or a 20 by 9. That screen should get brighter and also be a better LTPO, so adjustable variable refresh rate kind of
Mhm.
display. And then the other major change is going to be a sort of a newer telephoto sensor. So we're
Okay.
still going to have the variable optics, But the hope is that this means we're getting a slightly larger telephoto sensor, where the previous Xperia, like, it's a really good telephoto for daylight, but right now the arms race is can you use the telephoto indoors, where like even Samsung has stepped up to a more flexible telephoto sensor. So yeah, I mean, if that's it, if we see more expensive camera sensors, I kind of expect the phone to still be in the $1,300 to $1,400 ballpark. I don't know if this means any difference for storage options or anything like that, but I it makes me a little concerned. It makes me a little concerned that
Same.
this is the strategy that we're seeing play out, or
Exactly.
rumored to be playing out.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's hard not to say that it's a strategy because we haven't really seen anything. We haven't heard anything.
Sure.
So to a
Fair.
certain point, yeah, we can basically
We're
use history.
speculating.
Well, because and as we always do, we're not sitting here
Right.
saying like, look, this is the little black book that we just found. No, I mean the reality is all of the things that we're talking about right now purely could be just a revamping or a new, launch strategy from Sony Japan. Because one
Yeah.
thing that I'll say this over the years of working with Sony and covering many of their devices is the fact that we realize that it's always managed by Japan. We just have a division of their mobile department in the US, or
Yeah.
depending on
And
the
they have
products that you're
almost no
working.
autonomy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Everything is really always dictated and functional, and it comes directly from them. And even last year when I worked with them on their Mokopi approach, that tracker, the AR VR headset thing, the unit that they got us was one of the first ones that were released like months ago in Japan. It just finally
I
coming to the US.
I feel like this is the year where we're seeing some of the gaps in Sony's armor,
Hmm.
where the gaming industry is in a very tumultuous state right now. We're hearing about lots of layoffs. We're hearing about acquisitions. Microsoft strategy. There's not a lot of confidence in Xbox hardware, but
Hmm.
PlayStation fans are still wondering, like, why do we have PlayStation 5s? Why is there potentially a PlayStation Pro
5 Pro,
maybe
yeah,
on the way, when we still haven't maxed out
the
like
5
what the
potential.
PlayStation 5 can do?
Yeah, I know.
And
It's like,
and we're still kind of putting games out for the PlayStation 4 that play really well still. So you look at like PlayStation VR,
mhm.
got a big announcement push, and then there wasn't as much follow through on getting those gaming experiences into players. And now the big rumor is, well, we'll also maybe make it compatible with PC. You guys like playing PC games, right? Haha, now you can play PlayStation VR on your PC. Isn't that cool? And they came out with that weird Portal thing, which is just sort of a streaming connection to your console.
Yeah.
It just seems like Sony's traditional Japanese organization and hierarchy is starting to show where that lack of synergy is kind of messing them up. I mean, they've always gone through ebbs and flows, but right now, it kind of in the same way that we complain about Google too, to a large degree. I want to see executive leadership that has a plan for directing this enormous company and getting these departments and divisions to actually talk to each other, where it's just kind of sad. And Xperia is an amazing gaming experience, but mobile gaming sucks. And you're like, you need, as the company, to lead that discussion. You can't let that vacuum exist, because it'll be filled by people that have terrible opinions on how all this stuff works.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a it's hard when you're having to speculate on things where where the actual decision making is not even in the conversation, because you're not really able
Yeah.
to like, like, at least am I getting closer? No, you can't even get that kind of feedback. But no, so we'll have to see. We'll see. 2024 seems to be a very experimental year. I feel like we're due for course correction, and that's going to be next year, where we learn from this year's changes and how it impacted the market. Because again, as you said, we're in the beginning of May. We're basically almost at the summer, and we're still not looking at a lot. I mean, we saw the Samsung, the A series, the A35, I think, came out.
Yeah.
That was a substantial not launch, but like announcement, and now it's available through carriers. I heard Mint Mobile finally got bought out by T-Mobile. I was like, okay. I'm like, Okay.
And it was like, yeah, we knew that. They were just announcing that
Actually,
they finally completed the acquisition.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Ryan
All
Reynolds
right,
made
that's
300
great.
million. Congratulations to the Reynolds family. It's like I don't know. Like the news wasn't really like kind of clipping all over, but the biggest thing I'll probably say is Sony is yeah. I don't know. I'm hoping a lot of these rumors are just BS and we just have a continuation of the what we typically have seen. If nothing else, like I said, the 1 series for the US as they typically cover everything. And then of course the 10 and potentially the 5 back to Europe and Asia as they've done them in the past. And we'll see the approach. Can they, I mean, I'm imagining them, by the way, when we say that they're changing certain things in their architecture of the device, that could potentially maybe be still a savings of pricing, but it just I don't think it's going to drop it to like $999 for the Xperia 1 Mark 6. That I agree with you there, but it'll still be a premium deal. So with that being said, let's actually, one thing I want to say that before we get too far from SoCs and media and all of that. So Mediatek, as we all know here, obviously we talk to Qualcomm and Mediatek and all of that, but Mediatek had their analyst event going on right now in Phoenix, I think, somewhere. They're basically they're calling it their analyst. It's not a media, it's not a creator thing. It's specifically talking to analysts and predictions and so on. And Mediatek made the announcement that in 2024, their flagship experience, the 9300 or maybe even the 9400, will be coming to the US market. Now, I was like, say more. Please say more. Give me a hint, give me a picture, charades, anything. We'll play the game now. So I'm excited for that part. That part has been literally our question every year. We sit down with them. We talk about their flagships. We get a chance to play with their flagships.
Now let's play another round of rampant speculation. Who do you think it's going to be?
Okay, I'm gonna say if Mediatek is gonna be playing the game, it has to be Moto OnePlus. Those are the only two players in the US that
the first one. I literally my list was OnePlus or Moto.
Yeah. I see your OnePlus Moto, and I'm gonna go Moto OnePlus. So that's how we do it.
So I believe. I like if I were a betting man, because I think I'm probably going to lose our wager on X Elite, like who's going to bring X Elite to market first. I think I'm now totally wrong in who is actually going to ship first. But my guess on a Dimensity in the United States will be a follow up to the OnePlus Pad.
Ooh, oh, that's right.
That's safe.
Right. They didn't specify.
It's a tablet.
They didn't say what device it would be. They just said it would be a device in their premium tier processors. You're right.
Yep.
We are due for an update, technically. Although I feel like the 9000 Plus still does tremendous.
It's still crushing. It's still an amazing tablet.
The OnePlus Pad was not lacking anything. Yeah, no, I can see that. I would bite on that. Actually, that makes sense. OnePlus for me would be the right team because they've brought it before. They brought the 9000 series before, and it did so well. The OnePlus Pad has been one of their most successful tablets on the market, not just because of the price point, but just the feature set. You know, you could get a keyboard, the pen input, the speakers are amazing. The design, it's just overall very, very happy. So I
really good.
I won't be surprised if that happens. I will say though, our OnePlus friends have been very quiet recently, so I can't speculate on that part. But that was exciting. I saw that today. I forgot who was tweeting about it, but it was an exciting news. Finally saw some good stuff on X, news wise. I mean, obviously we have a lot of our friends are still posting, so it was nice. So that would be my last bit of talking. You know, Android potentially hardware, and we'll find out more obviously as we get closer to the end of the year as well with the MediaTek Summit as well, because they typically hold their summit, but it's a little bit later. It's not October. November.
I'll be curious to see if we're as aggressive with all of these phone launches at the end of 2024. I think it was a tough strategy.
You think it'll be a little bit more of a they'll purposely delay them back into what the old
not purposely delay them, but I just mean we saw sort of a dogpile effect of Xiaomi getting out there and then Vivo immediately countering, and then that put
Oh, yes.
pressure on Samsung to try and move this timetable up and that release there. I mean, even Oppo I felt like was kind of ahead of their normal launch schedule. Not radically, but just like everyone was kind of pushing up. So I'll be curious to see if companies don't look to maybe spread this out a little bit more. I don't think it's ever going to go back to what the end of the year next chip announcement, then in January we start getting those first chips. But I just wonder if it's really going to be this, we're releasing all of our 2025 phones in November of 2024. You run out of things to talk about throughout the year, and even a company like Xiaomi can't eat that. There are only so many Pocos you can put out. They can't keep headlines going all year long when they have so many device releases. And I don't know that like T series really gets people lit up a second half of the year like it used to. So I'll just be curious. I'm just kind of anxious to see. I think it'll be interesting to see.
It is. Again, this is going to be a learning year for us to see what the new trends are going to be.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no. Yeah, man. Oh, before again, because you mentioned Vivo again. So did you see there was some rumors coming up now about the updated the X100
Ultra.
Yeah. Ultra, and then there's an X100S or like another another variant. So there's going to be 4 X series this year, not 2, not 3, 4.
So I did reach out to my pals over at Vivo just to see. I haven't heard anything back yet, but like literally yesterday. So usually there's like a whole 2-day carryover for any emails.
Actually, I would probably say they're going to be out till the 5th.
Yeah. I'm saying I was saying under best case circumstances.
Oh yeah.
It's like a 2-day carryover. But even knowing that, I'm very curious to see if this is the year we get back an international release for their top end device. The X100 Pro has been an absolute monster. This is the phone I'm fiddling with right now while we're talking, because I've got another project coming up where I need to use this as an actual production camera.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to get it set up for tomorrow so I can shoot with it.
Yeah.
Just absolutely incredible. I'd be curious to see what it is that you bring to the X100 Pro to make it an Ultra and really make it feel like it's better. This is, I think, one of the smart plays. They didn't try to push X100 Ultra and X100 Pro out at the same time for all regions, for all markets.
They let them breathe. They let them breathe very long.
Yeah, a little bit more room, I think, actually helps, because now we get to see, like, are they going to stick with MediaTek? They don't need to go to Qualcomm for their image processing. Whatever the ISP is really doesn't matter, because they've put so much work into their V series coprocessor.
Yeah.
So they've put themselves into a really good position to be flexible, adaptable. They can be a bit more modular. I'm really anxious to see what that looks like. Is it going to be an international release? Is it just going to be a Qualcomm release? Do they want to use the Qualcomm fingerprint scanner again? Is this an opportunity for them to step outside of that, but then offer newer camera tech?
We need to return to that. Yeah, for sure.
Are they? The rumor is like we'll probably get a newer Sony LYT sensor for the main camera sensor, but OmniVision has been crushing it with these companion sensors. It's like this is one of the last phones of the year that I'm really getting lit up and anxious and excited about is what does Vivo do?
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping that this is the year they come back and say, no, our best version, international, let's do it. And let's try to put that out there now that we kind of understand what this market looks like for our X series devices.
I hope so, and I hope that they see the benefit of you going with MediaTek, that the 9300 does perform and outperforms in certain scenarios. It outperforms the Qualcomm variant, but at the end of the day, what I like about it is how reliable, how consistent. Also, the love for the updates on the X100 Pro has been
Yeah.
amazing this year. Like we're not waiting
We
months
just
and
got
months
another
to
one
get update.
recently.
I
Yeah.
know that's what I'm saying. Like I get like every month or so I get an update, and I'm like, and we see more improvements and more update and more tuning, and it's exciting to see that because as opposed to what we got last year, it was just like a very sparse. Sorry, their update cycles were very different. They focused so
Yeah.
much on their Qualcomm variant that they basically ignored their Mediatek variant. And this year they let it breathe. So yeah, for sure, a lot of little rumors, a lot of little things like that. I'm hoping a lot of that kind of materializes, and we'll have to see how that kind of comes through. And hopefully, maybe an IQ. Maybe we'll see the. I mean, IQ
Oh,
probably
that'd
would
be
be
cool.
closer to the
Yeah.
Gen 4, probably like they did last
Yeah,
year.
probably.
Yeah, that was exciting when I was in Hong Kong and I got my hands on the IQ. Was it the 13? And I
Hmm.
got the Gen 3 with that one. I was like, nice. It was
Hey,
like it was,
it's fun.
I was so close to their headquarters, to the place where they were shipping the phones from. It was like literally 30-minute drive for me.
You just walk
Okay.
over. I'll just take two of these. It's cool. All right.
I'm,
Thanks. Bye, guys.
I'm here for two. I want two IQ 26 because that's how I want the better IQ. Um, but yeah, so we could actually maybe just since we're talking mobile, we can kind of focus on that, and we'll talk a little bit more about the video you did with Snubs, of course. But
Yeah.
Apple quarterly ordering earnings are not meeting expectations, and that's like some people are surprised that the golden child is not performing to what they're supposed to. I guess.
You know, it's always funny. I feel like when you catch the media spin
Yeah.
on investor-heavy sites, we're finding a lot of language to try and say, oh, but they actually beat expectations. The expectations were that they would slide even further. So isn't that good news, investors?
Hold on,
And
hold on,
this
hold on.
is the
Hold on.
second year in a
Their
row
expectations
where,
is that the bad news were going to be really, really, really bad news, and and the news comes
oh,
out
it's
saying that
less
it's going to be
bad.
it's
So
just
that
going to be
makes the
bad,
stock
not
go
very, very
up.
bad.
Don't you see? It has nothing to do with them making less money, TK. It's that they didn't make as much less
That's
money.
money, yeah, and that somehow is better.
I didn't say that right,
I
but
know.
you know what I mean.
I get the no. I know. When you're playing in the negatives and you're already looking below the
with the
line,
triple negatives,
yeah, but you're like, okay, so it wasn't triple or double negative. It was a
they
negative.
didn't
So
make
therefore, they
as less much
they
bad
made
as they
they performed
were
better than what
not
analysts were
going
seeing them
to
as. Yeah,
don't do. Yeah,
it
exactly. It
wasn't a
makes perfect
dumpster
sense when
fire. It
you're
was just a minor fire in the backyard.
I,
I get it.
right.
No. I
It's
mean,
just
look,
just a little bit of light treason. It's totally
um,
fine.
they're on the cusp of talking new iPads. They're going to talk. You're going to. I mean, at
Yeah,
some point in the near future, they're going to start talking new iPhones and stuff like that. The reality is, um, incremental changes every year, incremental updates every year, make
for
it less and
sure.
less likely that people upgrade. Purchasing power
Whew.
is with inflation going up the way it is, regardless of where you are in this country,
Yeah.
you feel how inflation is hitting your pocket.
Hmm.
Going to the store, going to a restaurant, going to eat, going to do things, everything costs more, or if it doesn't cost more, you're getting less. And if and you see that
Yeah.
in the portion sizes and so on. So yeah, it was a matter of time with interest rates being so high, cost of living being so high, and inflation being so rampant the way it is right now, that everybody's going to start feeling it. I mean, heck, man, EV sales with Tesla and so on. I mean, Elon's been firing right and left, and it's not
Hmm.
even like, not making sense. Like the promotion department got fired. The
Hmm.
department that's in charge of building their EV charging network got fired. How does that make sense? So,
Nah.
and then Apple fires their whole potential future of EV, making an EV car as well, like 500,
Yep.
600 people.
Well, and
Yeah,
this is where we start putting a few Apple pieces together. And I think this stuff, I don't live in this analysis very often, but we see a couple general trends, and I think there are some interesting things at play.
yeah,
So right now, the big positive spin is Apple services got a big shot in the arm year over year.
that's typical because
Quarter,
Apple's been shifting to
quarter
that. Yeah,
quarter two 2023, they were roughly a $20 billion in revenue department
yeah,
at Apple, and this year 23 billion. You know, it was like a $3 billion rise in services. That is a victory for Apple.
yeah,
Of course, what they want to be front of mind is Apple TV Plus and Apple Music, services.
yeah.
But really, I feel wrapped up into the services conversation is also their advertising network. And something tells me that that is probably, like, for the amount of money that Apple TV Plus spends on content, I don't know that Apple TV Plus is really bringing in another $1 billion in revenue. I feel like the more substantial improvement to that bottom line has been coming from serving more and more ads on Apple products and services, and then charging companies more if they want to be a part of that advertising network.
Of course.
iPad was down. Mac sales took a tiny bump, but it wasn't radical. Like, I want to say it was something like $500 million in revenue on 7 billion, in estimation. So, like, $500 million is a lot of money, but not to Apple. Like, it is good that number went higher, but it didn't go higher in any kind of appreciable way when we look at trends over this market. The iPhone took a $5 billion slip over this quarter last year. So as much as we get excited about services, the juggernaut in their earnings is the iPhone. So you can't make up a $5 billion gap year over year with a $3 billion improvement to revenue on services. That's not how math works. The last one, sorry, just to kind of put all this to wrap up their numbers here. The last one that was concerning was the other accessories and wearables division. So that includes headphones, speakers, the Apple TV set-top box, and their mixed reality headset. So this was the quarter that they actually launched their VR headset. And that entire division slid almost $1 billion in revenue. So that's the most, like, the thing they're being the quietest about is the most embarrassing part of this entire earnings call, because we're all kind of speculating. This isn't unique to Apple. We're all kind of speculating, like, what is the post-smartphone world going to look like? Yeah. Will we see some kind of product disruption? I seriously doubt anything is going to be as disruptive as the smartphone was, but companies need to find a way to make money now that the smartphone is a commodity and that consumers aren't, like, driven to make it such a fashion statement like it used to be.
Yeah.
So Apple, like you were saying, killed their car division.
Yep.
Vision Pro, they just recently scaled back on their manufacturing order, and they let go the head of their mixed reality department. That person finally retired, but I feel like if their spatial headset, their mixed reality headset had come out and just done crazy huge numbers and gotten consumers on board, we probably wouldn't have seen that person walk away from such a smashing success. But that whole division, that looks bad, because I think that means we've also plateaued on earbuds. I don't think consumers are really lit up or excited about Bluetooth audio. Apple Watch is still healthy, but this last year, Apple took a hit on things like how they were stealing IP from other companies.
IP, exactly, yeah.
So now facing more regulatory pushback, facing more anti-consumer scrutiny, like, all of these business practices are being called into question before it seems Apple has been able to create a new path. Services aren't going to fill all of those gaps. Apple is going to continue making more and more money on web and services and content and streaming and all that stuff. Totally, hands down. I would say probably year over year, we'll probably see another 10% bump, at least, in the services market for 2025. That, to me, sounds not only reasonable, but we should expect it. But that extra $3 billion in revenue isn't going to account for an empty strategy where they don't have something after the iPhone. And Mac sales aren't going to get it done. iPad sales aren't going to get that done. They're not in a dangerous position. They're going to make more money than any other company on the planet. But over time, it erodes at the confidence of Apple executive leadership And that's the company that here in the United States we're supposed to be looking towards as our home team, the tech company that's going to lead us into the consumer future, has no strategy. They do not have a clear path
Yeah.
for finding the next hot thing that's going to get
It,
consumers
it's
excited.
we haven't had that. I mean, yeah, Vision Pro we know is not it. And as much as we thought, as much as some people have thought that that was going to be driving us into the future and what things are. Jokingly, one of my friends at work, my day job, came in yesterday and
Mm-hmm.
shared that he's like big fan. I really appreciate it and stuff. And then he were like, hey, I what do you think of the Vision Pro? He bought his and he's been using it, and pretty much told me flat out that all he uses it now is to watch movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't want to
Yeah.
say like that's a bad $3,500 or $4,000 investment into this, but the reality is,
It's not great.
no, my first answer to him was like, but you understand though that this was never intended to be a product, right? He's like, no, I understand it. I'm like, okay, so as long as you understand that you're
All
not
right.
coming into it with this is supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread, the limitation of software that was going to make this ooh ah for the longest time and everybody falls in love with it just isn't there. It's because this was intended for the developers to buy to start making the applications, the experiences, and Apple allowing them to provide these things available to customers and use them, and people
Mm-hmm.
bought it as a consumer product. So I'm not surprised that Vision Pro is a not necessarily a disappointment, but like where it is now. On day one, I was able to walk into an Apple store and they still had 4 or 5 units sitting on the shelf,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Not great.
on any Apple product launch, dude, if they launched the Chamois, they were still selling out.
They did. They sold
They
out
did on
of
the
cleaning
no,
cloths
absolutely.
for their
But
monitor.
my worry at this point is Apple has turned into the company that is not designed. Apple has become the company that just refines. Apple is no longer, in my opinion, the company that's innovating. They're
No.
refining. And what they're refining to is everything that we've had on Android for many years. Not,
Mm-hmm.
I need to give kudos to where things are basically due. The photography department, the technologies that we have, the audio experiences, and so on. Everything that Apple is releasing has been a refinement of what's already been out. So
Yeah.
I worry that who is going to take the mantle on that and basically start innovating into the post smartphone world. And you're right.
Yeah.
I totally agree. The smartphone excitement has
Is
long
gone.
gone. Yeah, because we've
Yeah.
had generations grow up with it. This is no longer
Mm-hmm.
the new hotness of things, but when your kids' only experience is on a smartphone and
It's
have
now an
no idea what a flip
obligation.
phone is, yeah, it stops.
Yeah.
Like I still don't understand to this day this whole people walking in the street like this.
I know.
Speakerphone on the street and they're talking. And I'm like, why?
Or
You're in
video
public.
call that they can't possibly be aiming well
Yeah,
at their
like
face while
they're
they're
aiming, they're not
walking.
even facing it. It's up the nose somewhere else. I don't know. But that's a generational thing. Like totally different. But I'm saying as always, yeah, we haven't had Lumia, the Lumia 910 excitement. We haven't had the
No.
HTC M9 excitement. We haven't had the S21, the S10 Plus and S10e type of excitement from companies for some time. So I worry where we are. But well, yeah. I mean, again, my biggest thing I'm looking forward to is the changes in their strategy of being able to allow people to install third-party stores, the ability of installing third-party launchers, changes
Mm-hmm.
into RCS and their adoption to iMessage and allowing people to communicate like
Well,
normal people.
and again, we know that it's coming over the next 2 or 3 years is a mandate that we'll have to return to removable
Without
batteries.
batteries, yeah. No, I
Which
I like
again,
that. It's a challenge. That's a challenge, engineering challenge for
if
sure.
if the stock price of a company was based on its actual fiduciary performance and not just on this wild speculation from investors as to the health of the company, what it looks like. And because again, not unique to Apple, it's going to be coming for everybody. I would expect in the next 3 to 4 years another significant downturn
Hmm.
in smartphone sales when people can easily pop open a phone, put in a new battery, and close that phone back up. Because even more so than when we had that as a feature, we now are backing these things up with better software support, better managed support from like on Android devices from Google, getting even when you don't get the next operating system number, you
Mhm.
still get an incredible amount of feature improvement and software support. So you could be on a 2 to 3 generation old version of Android and still be picking up good app updates, good Google Play system updates, and then you just pop in a new battery. Why would you buy a new phone? And so that to me is yet another, like again, if I were playing this stock market game, I
Yeah.
have to believe everyone's going to take a hit when our products can last longer. And I don't know that any of these companies have leadership in place that can make good decisions on where to go from here.
Oh,
To me, everyone seems to be floundering,
yeah.
and the fad right now is, oh well, we'll just AI our way out of these problems. But that increasingly is looking like it's not really gonna be a source of revenue or growth unless you're the landlord, unless you're the Google selling Gemini or the Microsoft selling
Copilot.
ChatGPT or Copilot. But I
Copilot
mean,
with
like,
ChatGPT. Yeah. No, I'm with you.
but unless you're selling the server space to run those models, you're not making money on this stuff. Like,
It's a tougher business. My biggest thing, I'll probably will say that it if once when and if this actually becomes a thing, is what would Apple's new shtick be about? Why would they throw or they throttled your phone's performance down? Because once you're able to replace the battery, they can no longer point and say, "Well, your battery health is lower. We have to slow down your processors because that's how the phone needs to work." How that story is going to change, but no, I agree. It's a tougher devices nowadays, like we said before. I mean, the 8 Gen 3, the 8, the 9000, the Dimensity 9000 is still a very capable chip. The
sure.
fact that if you are able to fix the battery concerns that you typically have with most smartphones, actually with anything that runs on a battery, um, that is going to make it into a conversation where people are keeping their devices longer. They're using it.
Hmm.
They're getting their benefit of what they used to do before, the 3 to 4 years average usage of a device, as opposed to the 1 to 2 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think it's a baby step conversation, but again, it's incremental. No earth shattering. Oh my God, this thing is the best thing since whatever. You know what I mean? So whatever they go on for this year, I predict a minor upgrade to everything that we've seen from last year, with the exception of the
Yeah.
software experience. That again, because it was mandated to them, not because they wanted to. And we still
Right.
haven't heard back anything yet from the U.S. portion of the whole shenanigans going
Yeah.
right. They started, but no decisions have been made.
Well,
So we'll have to.
and again, watch this entire industry just kind of land into another holding pattern as we wrap up the DOJ case against Google,
Mhm.
which there was another series of headlines about that today, where it's like,
Oh,
man,
okay.
you guys, it's not a great look when you're saying like, well, what else could we have done? And the answer is literally not engage in unfair anti-competitive business practices by giving Apple preferential treatment for Google search. The question is really easy to answer, Google lawyer. That's really not a good look. And then the entire industry is going to be on hold as we watch what happens with the DOJ case against Apple. Once we wrap up one, we're immediately back into another with the two biggest sort of consumer tech entities currently making money right now. And it's
Yeah.
amazing to me that with all of that regulatory scrutiny, with all of these lawsuits happening, and while I don't know that their business practices are fundamentally different, just Microsoft's over on the side going like, you guys aren't paying attention to us right now, so we're gonna try and keep all this under the radar. You guys have a good time with Google and Apple. We did that back in the original browser wars, like with like Windows
Windows and Internet
XP.
Explorer. Yeah, no. I'm with you. It's the that proprietary non-compete type of, we've seen it in play over and over. Every company thinks they're smarter than the rest of the world, and they think they can get away with it, and at
Hmm.
some point or another they get caught and they get called on it. No, I get it. I get it. Both Google and Apple have a lot to talk about, but I think it's just the walled garden approach of Apple saying that we do things better and therefore we should just not share is just not something that should be happening. Google has been prioritizing Apple for many years. I mean, we've seen it in many times where they've released updates to their apps on on
Mm-hmm.
iPhone first. Google not even
Mm-hmm.
releasing it on their own phone first, but releasing it on an iPhone first because they're trying to
Well,
appeal to that market.
and I mean, I can kind of understand that because I think Microsoft did the same thing too. They
Mhm.
sacrificed their own position with Windows Phone, maybe in a way that prevented them from facing scrutiny that they were giving their own hardware preferential treatment. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it's a really bad look when Google lawyers are, sort of disclosing evidence, and there have been Google documents that were destroyed indicating that every other manufacturer got something like a 10 to 15% cut of Google ad revenue on search, but Apple got more like a 20 to 25% cut so that Google would remain the default search engine on the
On
iPhone.
iPhone.
That
Yeah.
is what
That's
we look for
that's
when
a
we're
deal behind. Yeah,
investigating
exactly.
collusion and sort of a rigged marketplace where that's not the same deal that everyone else got. So it's things like that that I find very troubling. And again, why I keep saying things like Google is this amorphous blob of little divisions that are all
Mhm.
vying for power within this massive structure, and why I'm incredibly excited about their hardware division. And I'm very anxious to see what Rick Osterloh is going to do
Mhm.
with this new platforms and devices department that's merging a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, under for Alphabet, I'm very frustrated with the way that like YouTube and Google search business is being conducted. I don't feel that is like like I'm talking about two completely different companies. The division that makes the Pixel doesn't seem to me to be the same company that is responsible for like search and YouTube.
No, it's such a compartmentalized approach. But yeah, no, it's how Google operates. So many compartments, so many little teams doing different things, and they don't really
Yeah.
communicate, and a lot of overlapping features and so on. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the Pixel 8a brings us at least in the
Oh
next
yeah.
couple of weeks, and actually
Uh,
more so into a confirmation of what we've already seen,
oh,
if
for
nothing
sure.
else.
I
Yeah,
mean, if they confirm what we think the phone is going to be, and I'm hoping that even though the rumor is we're going to be looking at longer software support,
yeah,
I'm really hoping
that could be
that
good. That will be good. Not it could be. It could. Yeah, it is a good thing.
I'm really hoping that like Google can still kind of keep prices in check so that the A series still seems like a
Affordable.
really solid. Yeah, like we got Maria Pixel 8 and she
Mhm.
flippin' loves that phone. She really likes her phone. And I keep waffling like, oh, maybe we should have waited for the 8A, but the Pixel 8 arrived as such a good deal for what
Mhm.
we wanted and what we needed that now
Yeah.
like what do you do to get someone to move down? If the pricing is already close and these phones are going on sales periodically throughout the year and we know it's like we get closer to Black Friday, it's probably going to be a really good sale on like a
I
Pixel
no, no,
9, like
absolutely.
what is it, how do we move those parts and pieces around?
I feel like the 8A for me right now is for somebody that's rocking the Pixel 3A, 3A XL, or 4A that's
Sure.
looking into upgrading because I feel like that's
Oh
where
yeah.
we start getting the Tensor 3's performance benefit over what you've seen before with the 7 series. Depending what you
Yeah,
were
it
on
makes
budget.
way less sense if you're looking at a 6A to 8A.
Yeah,
I don't know that that's
for the price point and the feature, it's not going to be a massive jump
yeah.
as we've seen in the past. Longer software support is always going to be appreciated, and I think people will feel more like the price that they're paying for their device it's carrying them many more years. Like this is like one of those
Mhm.
when you buy a license to an app like Prime, like not Prime, Nova Prime, and it
Yeah.
pays for itself over and over and over and
Mhm.
over, and you're like such a worth it of a purchase. But I think that's what they're trying to do. Google's trying to give that. They want to get
Yeah.
that feeling in with their customers. And I assure you that I still have my in-laws living on the 3A and the 3A XL, and they are happy with it.
Mhm.
They haven't come back to me and say, look, my phone just doesn't work anymore. I'm like, no, it still runs. It runs everything they want, and it takes great pictures for them. And it's just they're happy with it. And I think
Yeah,
that's
I
what we need to
definitely
get
have.
that
I
feeling
have
back.
my siblings flipped over on Pixels. Marcus,
Yeah.
he was on an old beat up Motorola. He's now on a Pixel 6A.
Hmm.
His wife was on. I want to say it was an iPhone 8 Plus.
Oh, the larger one. Well, not really larger, but yeah.
But
They had a massive
it
chin
launched
for
the
it.
same year as the iPhone 10, so it
Yeah.
was a 5-year-old phone. She's on a Pixel 6 Pro.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Like, she just made the jump too. Like, she was one of the few in our family that was kind of messing up our group chats. So it was one of those like reverse
Oh
green
my God.
bubble situations. But like my sister and her husband, I think are on. He's still on, I think, a Pixel 5a, and
Mhm.
she just flipped her phone to a Pixel 7a.
All my nieces and nephews
So
and my in-laws are on Pixels. Like their first phones, I'm happy that they're able to get that as an experience to start, because it's just there and it works. And again, even with Omar's phone, we had to replace the
yeah,
display, and iFixit just came to the help. Bought the panel, came in, had him install it, and it was done. Like things,
perfect.
just little things like that. So I mean, don't get me
That
wrong, I'm
helps.
excited for that. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I actually am going to be at least the first day of IO. So I'm going to be actually attending
Cool.
IO this year. Under
Right on.
not
You want
as
to try and do a remote? Like, I'll interview you from the venue, and we'll set up like
we
a
Dude, we could totally try. I'm going to
satellite.
be there the whole day. But it's early. I think it's on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember that what day it is.
Hmm.
The day the event itself is on a Tuesday, and I think it's not. We could probably do a best of our week earlier show type of a thing. But I'm hoping they'll have it some of the 8As if they're going to launch it there. Maybe they'll have a few units there for us to check out.
Yeah,
I'm actually
that'd be
not
cool.
going there as content creator or media. I'm going under the development side. So, but
Nice. That's good.
a lot less. I'll say this: a lot less pressure, but more
Hmm.
so freedom into covering what I like.
Well, and also I kind of like when you can just sort of sneak into the nerdier stuff, and it's not just I am here and this is what they said during the keynote, and you're like, yeah, we all watched the keynote. I don't need 50 editorials.
Which I
Google
think,
I/O keynote explained.
yeah, wait for the
I could
version.
just watch the
The Google
keynote.
I/O keynote in 7 minutes. Just wait for that. I literally no seriously, like watching the keynote to me sometimes it's a long time, because there's a lot of performance charts and data
Hmm.
and all of that good stuff. And like, you're right. For me, it's more about being there as part of the developer side, which is actually the first time ever for me. Is like, it's very nice. So it was good. So needless to say,
Right
yes,
on.
I will be on the ground covering the event. Hopefully from a new angle, but at least we'll see how it goes. It's exciting to be
Very
back in
cool.
San Jose, or sorry, Sunnyvale, and or Cupertino, I think. I can't remember. It's been so long. Um,
Not
Palo Alto.
Cupertino.
No. Wrong event. Wrong event. Other
How
side.
dare you?
I know.
How dare you say Cupertino to my face?
It's not even. We were talking about them just like 5 minutes ago, man. That's how it works. We talk about the apple for so long, Cupertino comes out.
I do enjoy a good Honeycrisp. One of my new favorite little flavor combos, just filling people in there. Honeycrisp apple with peanut butter salted pretzels. Really
Ooh,
good. Take
okay.
like a little bite of apple,
A
take
little bit of.
a peanut butter pretzel bite, get that salt, get that kind of carby, pretzely flavor, that buttery
Crunchy.
flavor.
Yeah.
Spot of peanut butter. Peanut butter and apple is always classic, but like salty, buttery, peanut buttery, appley, delicious.
Dude.
I've gone through 4 Honeycrisp apples this week, with also just kind of popping in the occasional peanut butter pretzel.
It's too
Just
late for
really
us to
good.
start talking about food, man. You know what happens to us. We're gonna be
I'm
we're gonna
gonna
be
be
done.
snacking at midnight.
Exactly. We'll be
Woohoo!
partying. Juan will be walking around with a peanut butter jar with some pretzels and apples, and his wife is like, "Juan, what's wrong, buddy? What's wrong, honey? I can't finish it.
Nothing.
I gotta
I
finish.
got. I got to eat it all.
You gotta finish it. Gotta foam, Homer.
I can't
No,
stop eating. There is still food in front of me. I
there's
must
always.
consume to capacity.
Well, speaking of actually something that I think both of us have talked about in the past, that we've seen before, but you more so with some of the hardware that you've reviewed in the past. So
Hmm.
you've had an opportunity to chat up with our buddy, obviously, S'mores, Shannon Moore, into
Hmm.
specific security regarding PCs and
Yeah.
malware and things that I'm not going to lie, it has been holding me back a little bit from even reviewing the company that you worked with before. But
Yeah.
potentially maybe getting a better understanding of about that. Maybe you can I'll be very honest. I did not have a chance to read it. I saw the the thumbnail of the video in my timeline, and I never got a chance to circle back. But I will definitely play. I'll be one
Nah,
of the
it's
replay
okay.
crews for sure.
So we've talked about this quite a bit. Is
Yeah.
Ace Magic having some issues with their QA with shipping out units to consumers?
Yep.
And I feel inadequately explaining what some of the issues with their machines have been. I feel their explanation is insufficient for what other people, myself included, have discovered on these machines. And so it prompted me to take a much more aggressive stance on setting up a new computer for review, testing it, and then it takes so much longer now
Yeah.
to sort of verify that this is a safe system to then start plugging into my workflow. And I mean, it's having a significant impact on how I am able to accomplish a review or an editorial or talk about these types of products. So I sat down and I worked with Shannon Morse just to see, like, given what we do know and given the responses that we've gotten from the manufacturer, because Ace Magic has been pretty forward about
Yeah.
sharing like press releases, and they have a whole program. If you've been affected, this is how they're going to try and help people. They're not just erasing the label and coming up with a new brand name. They're trying to rebuild trust in this enthusiast community here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether or not we feel that this has been effective, I think is absolutely open to interpretation and debate. But I sat down with Shannon and I was just like, hey, I've gotten most of my comments have been supportive, saying like, hey, if I nuke this PC and reinstall an operating system, if I'm air gapping it, if I'm ripping out the SSD so that I can scan it independently in another sort of virtual environment. To me, this is all stuff that takes an incredible amount of time and work and effort.
And then the average user would not be doing anyways, because if they bought a PC,
Wouldn't have access
exactly
to those kinds of tools. But for me to properly assess whether or not I think that this is a company that's operating in a way that's safer for consumers to consider again, I have to take those steps just in case they've slipped again. And so I had a conversation with her just on the few comments that have come up where people have said that maybe I was overreacting, or it's possible that these were false positives. I think everybody has their own limits for what they think is acceptable and acceptable risk.
Yeah.
But, I operate a home network that my wife also has to work on for her job, and she deals with a lot of proprietary information for her company.
Exactly.
I still do the occasional client job. I've got a massive network attached storage rig. I've got a business grade router into a business grade switch. I've got I'm constantly putting devices on this network. Like every day, I'm putting something on there or rebooting something or updating something, like dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of devices in our household. And she brought up some really great points about other strategies that kind of help keep people safe, and just where you set your threat assessment,
Yeah.
how much risk you're willing to encounter. So she's just an awesome person to chat with. Like, I really do appreciate that while I have some experience in security work and I've been, vetted for Department of Energy facilities back in the day. Let me tell you, there were a lot of security issues with Department of Energy back in the day. You can look up all those old stories of like laptops and hard drives just wandering out of the labs. Oh no, where did they go? She is very good at engaging in a conversation at a level that is accessible, but I don't feel is overly dumbed down. Okay. Like in our conversation, if you catch the video, in our conversation, I don't feel anything we're discussing is so far out there that people wouldn't be able to track or follow the conversation. But she's also like not pulling punches on topics like air gapping. Like if I just go up to my uncle and be like, oh, well, you set up a new PC, you want to air gap it, I'd need to explain and define that. She's not shying away from best practices, but she's doing so in a way where it's like, she definitely knows what she's talking about, but she's trying to bring more people into a little consideration for how they handle their own stuff.
Absolutely.
And increasingly, it's just like kind of a spoiler for our conversation. Increasingly, I feel like it's just even more important now when we're talking to our family and friends to say, hey, you just bought this new laptop. It's got a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah.
And you don't really know how well all of that stuff has been managed. You didn't install it. You didn't ask the manufacturer to put all of this custom stuff on there and Norton antivirus and a bunch of game demos that you're not going to play or recommend a bunch of like Candy Crush type game. You didn't ask for any of that.
That's true.
So if you can get good driver support, maybe you just want to nuke it. Maybe you just want to nuke it and start fresh. And I kind of feel like increasingly that's just a better way to be. If you're in any way technically savvy enough to kind of handle the reinstallation of an operating system, I just think it's better, it's safer, it's faster, and I like a clean system. I'm going to put exactly what I want on it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about all the other things. Like the one that drove me crazy was that MSI Creator. There was nothing I could do to get rid of Norton antivirus. I would uninstall it. I did the Norton tool to go in there and it would, delete things out of my registry, and then I'd reboot the computer and I'd still get a nag screen. Oh, you need to reinstall Norton. And you're like, no. Oh, no. This machine's getting nuked. I am wiping this operating system.
It is.
So it's stuff like that to kind of just like wrap that up. She is knowledgeable and insightful and just really lovely to chat with. So I was really glad she took the time.
I saw the collaboration and I was very happy with it. Also happy to see that she's back from Japan again, which I always love to be able to visit. I am very, very jealous of the fact that she gets to go more. I want to go back and visit, especially with, just in general, just the awesomeness of Japan and how everything is. But and hopefully we'll get a chance to see her again soon in the near future and get a chance to chat with her. So it's been so nice. So we have a comment here. So I bought a mini PC with no RAM, no storage, partially because of the video because of your video one, which is actually smart. Yeah. There's no reason. I mean, if you're able to download all the drivers and everything from their site, install your own, customize it, do your thing.
And so far, I don't believe any of the security threats that we've encountered would be ones where we would be concerned about like some type of other issue in BIOS. Like I was in a conversation with someone else, and he's he works pretty high up at a computer manufacturer, and he was like, "Well, yeah, but I mean, like, you're putting these systems together and you're working on these things. Like, what about the UEFI?" And it's like you're being very generous calling it a UEFI because, man, this is like gut rot BIOS. It looks like a Windows 98 machine BIOS on a lot of these mini PCs. So far, I don't believe we've seen anything to indicate risk there. So source your own SSD. You're gonna format it specifically for that build. Nothing is gonna get you there. You can also then shop better RAM. I've got an Intel Core i9 12900 over here. This thing is a monster laptop chip. And when you put it in a mini desktop enclosure, that's a screamer machine.
Yeah.
And when you can configure that with, I've got it with 32 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig SSD, like that's a gaming PC. You can legitimately, without a discrete GPU, like that's 1080p gaming, easy on a lot of good AAA titles.
Exactly.
So if you don't have to go through any of the headache or any of the concerns that I went through, it's not difficult finding this frame, this enclosure, and the chip ready to go. Yeah, and then you can source your own parts on top.
Everything short of an operating system running there, and then you could just run your own. I agree, and I think I've covered a lot more Nook. I haven't worked with Ace Magic before, but I've covered more, not Nook, but like Nook style. With Geekom
and the 4x4s because like we haven't had this experience with Geekom, And I don't want this to paint Geekom and Minis Forum and these other labels with the same brush. But, you know, I got the Ace Magic and I wiped out that laptop and I installed just a totally clean build of Windows 11. And you're like, I just like it better. When I get my next Geekom, even though it's part of the perk is that, you know, oh, well, you don't have to buy and install Windows. I'm probably still just going to nuke it because I just want it to be completely starting from scratch.
You can totally extract your key, reinstall, download an ISO image, install it, use the same key. I mean, it'll still be the same license that you had before from them. You just get that comfort knowing everything you have on there is yours. For me, about it in the last week or so, the last couple of weeks, I've been dealing with this weirdest problem ever on my Windows PC, the desktop behind me. And it's not a Windows issue. And as time goes on, and I finally realized that it's my Razer software for my mouse that's been messing me up. Like I get this weirdest thing after playing or after using the computer for about 10 or 20 minutes. Anything that I click in Chrome, if it's an image, if it's a link, if it's whatever, Chrome downloads it as an HTML file. And I'm like, what is going on?
Awesome.
I can't right click on anything. And if I try to click on something, it would just go wherever. So I started deep diving into disabling services, disabling functions, disabling everything. The thing would not go away. And actually, in fact, I think I was able to make it worse. And then suddenly, out of the blue, it hit me to say, hey, let me switch my mouse from wireless to wired. And suddenly it worked. And then when the problem comes back up again, I switch it back from wired to wireless, and it goes away and it comes back again. And as I like it, okay, my problem is
messed up.
It's their software. I've always gotten into the habit of disabling their software whenever I'm playing Call of Duty because it messes up my game. It actually is. It's enough because it's supposed to be optimizing to close out all the other stuff that it becomes the problem. And I'm like, why? Like
that's my problem with Norton is that it operates in a way that impacts system performance, and I don't want it.
When you want it to sleep, be sleeping. Don't be sitting in my face. But so long story short, it's the best way to do it. Also helps you troubleshoot in case you have any problems like the one like I kid you not, I could not find anywhere anybody talking about the specific problem that I was dealing with. Yeah. But then I forgot the fact that for the longest time,
that was another part of our conversation too. It's kind of in our wrap up where I'm saying like, I feel I've got a pretty good troubleshooting system for all of the issues that I've had to fix over my tech career. I think it's gotten demonstrably more difficult to find good, trustworthy information, and radically so over the last 2 years. Yeah. So that when you go to search, you try to find an issue to this problem, and Google seems far more interested in sending me to sites that are selling some kind of malware tool, as opposed to the ones that pop up first. Yeah. As opposed to good information on what the security threat might be, what the exploit might be, and what are good corrective steps. It's, oh, you want to get rid of this Xperia virus? Use our Xperia virus deleter tool. And like, that's awful.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's a tougher conversation, especially with PCs. But again, very happy to see that collaboration. Hopefully, we'll see some more collaboration with S'mores or Snub. Sorry, and get more things there.
I know. She's in a different time zone, but we should just ask like, hey, if we started the show a little early, would you want to drop by and come hang out? Because she is like action adventure princess in the best possible way.
Absolutely.
So she's just really fun to talk to. Even if it's not like, hey, Shannon, can you fix my computer and my network? If it's just like, so tell us about Sailor Moon. What's going on there? And then we could just shut up for an hour and let her just take over the show.
I was about to say that, or get Trish and get Shannon on the same show. and then you and I would basically be like, we'll be back in 20 minutes, guys. Or
we're good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go make some tea.
Juan's gonna start working on that ramen batch for tomorrow since TK's never gonna try that.
Oh man, dude, yeah, the last batch we made was
we gotta plan our next meetup, man. We gotta plan the meetup.
It was so like mushroom umami and like I went a little bit heavier on the sesame oil.
Juan, it's been years. It's been years.
I know.
I've had my request. I've certified it in triplicates. I've submitted
And
it to the missus.
it's been getting better this whole time. Is like every time I make it, it's better than the last time. You're really missing out. You should
I
really.
actually needs to I need to Airbnb my way into your place at some point. Just waiting just to be able to circumvent that. No.
Also, it's just really stupid that we're talking about food at
You
10 o'clock
started
at night.
You
I
started.
know. I just think it's
Hopefully not.
really dumb.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. It's okay. I know it's getting a little bit later, but I wanted to double check and see what's going on with you. Are you? I mean, I know at least I'm working on. Like I said before we started the show.
Yeah, we have.
I have
way too much stuff.
I have way too many videos that I'm in the middle of
Yeah.
producing. I have not finished yet. But is there anything coming out from you for the by the end of this week? Anything potentially that we could be looking forward to, like the article or
So,
recipes or dishes or anything, invitations maybe even, but
I've actually been writing a bit more than I have in a while, where I published an article a while back talking about Apple's scrutiny with the DOJ.
Yeah.
I published an article kind of referencing some of what we were talking about with Sony. This is sort of an editorial look at some of my concerns for this year's launch strategy. And just tonight, and we covered a lot of this on the show, chatting about Apple's quarterly financials.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow on the Patreon, I'm going to publish a OnePlus 12 camera conclusion. So I've been shooting on the OnePlus 12 really heavy, and I don't see much to indicate that I need to do an entirely unique camera deep dive when I did that for the OnePlus Open.
Okay.
In fact, now, literally tonight, I just got an update on the OnePlus Open that has made the Open even more like the 12.
Really?
So
It was. I got that update a couple of days ago. Yeah. There's that.
Yeah, I just got it today. Yeah, it came
yeah.
out a couple days ago, but it finally just installed on my OnePlus Open, and so now it's like even less necessary that I feel like those two phones needed to have distinctly different camera deep dive reviews, camera coverage, but there is just the little structural differences between the two that I felt was worth examining. So that video is going to go live on the Patreon tomorrow. I'm debating whether or not I want to make that one public, because I usually don't do any of my camera reviews public on YouTube, but it's not a full camera review. It's kind of just like the differences between the 12 and the Open. And then I don't know if I'm going to have it done over the weekend. I've been talking to the folks at Ceramonic, because they have a new series of little wireless mics out, and they sent me, under the embargo, the pre-release before they were selling them, they sent me some of these mics, and they didn't work at all. And I reached out to them and it's like, hey, you sent me, I don't believe this was like the consumer packaging and stuff that you sent it in. I'm pretty sure that this is like prototype something, but they don't work. Like, they only could connect to iPhones. They couldn't talk to Windows machines or Androids. Like, fundamentally, there's something going on here. So now they sent me a proper boxed unit of these are the Blink. What are these? I've got the box over here. The Blink 500 B2 Plus, which is in this cute little charge case that then opens up for all of these like accessories, and it's like a 2 mic system to 1 receiver. Really, really cute. Not crazy expensive for an okay pair of clip-on wireless mics. And I'm going to try and run these through their paces and see if I can get a video out just like, hey, I'm out in the field. This is me recording on my Pixel 8 Pro, and now here's me in the studio, and isn't this so cool? So if that can't happen, hopefully that'll happen over the weekend. What do you have coming up? What are you going to get out to all the fine folks out there?
So for me, it's probably going to be a little bit early next week, mostly because a lot of my videos that I'm working on right now require pre-authorization by the brands that I'm working with. So as I mentioned,
I know that pain.
So what's happening is it's the Labor Day holiday in China right now. So May 1st to May 5th, and if you get all these emails from different companies and so on, you probably noticed there's a dry spell of emails within the last few days, and it's going to continue through the 5th. So short answer is, I'm probably going to be finishing up a lot more of the B-roll and the setup and getting the drafts ready and videos. So I think next week is going to be a lot busier on the channel from a production standpoint. And I'm going to try to see maybe if I can get something out this weekend. I'm not 100% sure. I'm working with the team over at UPerfect as well.
Nice.
We're trying to work on some things and trying to troubleshoot, but they got me the hardware and then they went on vacation. It's like,
Hooray!
hey, troubleshooting.
That sounds quite a bit like my last experience with UPerfect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, they're a good team. It's just as I can.
No, they are,
imagine,
but it's also
the
like,
office.
that's a tiny team, and like,
Yeah,
hey, something isn't. It's going to take a while for us to fix this, isn't
a
it?
little bit. Yeah.
Oh,
No, absolutely.
no.
And I need to finish up the video for this chair, the really good gaming chair. Surprisingly, I'll say this: the one thing that always bugged me about gaming chair and chairs in general, whenever I got them, is the height adjustment. Most chairs come out and it's a preset height that most companies decide on an artificial number, and not all the chairs are always height correct. The reason why I'm excited about this is I actually find it for the first time ever, I've upgraded a chair, specifically this one, to go higher. So I've changed the actual pump mechanism for it. And I didn't realize that you could just buy that piece, and not expensive, like for 20 bucks. And so yeah, that part was something that's essential. Maybe put that, let people know that they could do it, how to do it, and how simple it is. But focusing more on, unfortunately, not smartphone tech, but general like things around the house, and there may be even a video in the pool in the near future on this channel. So yeah, venturing into new things, trying different things.
Hooray!
While we have the little bit of a lull kind of thing going on, like
Right.
till we get IO and Sony and all of that stuff hopefully picking up for us in the near future. So yeah, it'll be good. I think it'll be good.
Nice.
And then we'll try to catch up, and we'll try to be back again for another episode next week, of course, on Thursday for the best of our week. Make sure to catch Juan on Monday with the SGGQA. Of course, catch him there. And let us know what you guys think of the show. If you get a chance to like it, please give us a thumbs up. Hopefully the audio version of this podcast will be out in the next day or so. But I will say thank you for everybody to hanging out with us on this beautiful Thursday. We had a nice crew carrying us for quite a while. And be safe, stay safe, and let's hope May brings us back into a better tech experience that we have had in the past. So we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys very, very soon. If I can find my mouse. Okay. Take care, everybody.